Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
What is karma? It's not about life sucks until you die. It's life sucks until you figure out why. When you are in your karma, everything is about it sucking.
Yeah.
Every experience you have, every interaction you have is about how sucky everything is or seems to be until you can figure out how to effectively hack that. And karma is that hack, if you will, right? That we share. And there's no cure for that except to work through it, right? Because you can practice gratitude, you can try to find the silver lining, but it doesn't fix it.
So how do you know when you're out of your karma? Like we talk about that a lot, in and out of karma and stuff like that, but how do we know?
Yeah. Today's answer is if you can wake up and know that something other than anything you've experienced before is possible.
And not from a delusional space.
No. That's why we said no.
Okay.
Not imagine, not dream, not fantasize, not manifest, just you know. It's actually not a bad answer.
No, that's the first answer that's like quite satisfying for me, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense because you're not stuck in the loop. You're not stuck in the shame spiral. Yeah. Second question, do you get repetitive strain injury from the pendulum?
No.
I'm always curious about that.
Why, are you starting to get a little bit of pain?
No, I'm just watching you and I'm like, Jesus, like, does it hurt?
No, because as much as it looks like my hand is moving, it's not. It's just energy. So I'm not using any of the muscles.
Okay, fine.
Really, I just hold it. Right? And then it just wants to go and go and go. Yeah. Sometimes my fingers just from holding it. Anyway.
So, but the thing is, you can't know that something else could happen to you other than what you've already known when you don't understand why you're reliving the same story again and again and again.
And we've been sharing this since season 1. The why is you're not good enough story. It is the separation experience, the subsequent trauma that resulted, that I and God are not one, which led us to wire in the belief that we are not good enough.
Yeah.
That is the why.
It's the fall, effectively.
It is the fall, exactly.
And it's not like some religious fall or some like poison apple. It's not Snow White. It's none of that. It's just, I do not have the power to be myself and for it to work out.
Right.
Because before it's like, if I'm myself, I will be rejected, I will be abandoned, I will be punished, I will be all these things. So I've got to change who I am, be someone different in order to be accepted.
I will not be my fullest divine self in the most expanded way possible, right? Is the...
Yeah. And I'm like, let's talk about it from like a really small perspective. And you're like, kumbaya this bitch, Rhea, kumbaya it.
Take a gazillion steps back, take the most expanded perspective possible, and then we can fix it all. But the thing is, it's not a secret, right? I mean, that's not... And there are enough people out there who spread the same message about the whole feeling of not good enough and imposter syndrome that it's not new necessarily. But what is different is the fact that we do it from that spiritual place. We do it from the spiritual body, where a lot of people, they keep wanting to come at it from the mental body.
Did I not do it from the mental body?
No, you didn't, because we did it spiritually at the same time. So, you know, when a lot of people talk about, oh, I just don't feel good enough and I need to work on that, that's very much from the mental body. Or my feelings tell me I don't deserve any better, so I'm just going to tell myself I'm good enough. And I hope my feelings will line up and I'll just force them.
Just can't force it from a mental body or an emotional body space.
They just don't know how.
Yeah.
They really don't know how to get that healing through. So 2023 is going to be about answering that particular question, why? And we often say, why is sometimes the most useless question, because that's the one that's going to send you down the rabbit hole. We often look at, you know, the what or the how. But why, I'm always like, I skirt the why because it's annoying.
Yeah. Because it also just sounds like, why me?
Yeah, why? Why is this happening? Why? And I'm like,
powerlessness in that way.
It can be. And it can be very paralyzing as a result, right? It can sort of render us impotent because... where do you begin? Why is just like a massive hole, right?
And when you're in your karma, you're going to fill the why with I'm not good enough, and you're going to fill it with...
And look at all these many, many, many examples of why I am not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the thing about why is that there are a lot of possibilities. And then if you
Because
can't
there's
pinpoint
all-
them, then what?
as we keep saying, there's loads of different truths, right? So
Exactly.
they could all be true.
Exactly. So then what? What are you doing then? Then you're just kind of looping, right?
Yeah.
So, but we are going to end up having to ask the why. Like, why does this suck? Yeah. Why are we here? And most importantly, why do I give a shit about any of this? And that's what is so interesting. You know, people can be so nihilistic about things and be like, I don't give a shit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool.
But then why are you still alive?
Exactly.
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking about this in the car. Because I think
I love car thoughts.
Yeah.
Car thoughts are some of my favorite. That and shower thoughts. Two of like the best places, I think.
I know, shower thoughts. Because I was thinking about it and I was thinking sometimes we just need to know the question and then the answer follows.
Yes.
And so, for example, when I was in my really dark days, I kept asking, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point? But that was the question. What's the point? What's your point? And the minute I was able to think, oh, that's what I'm actually asking. What's my point? I'm not just saying, what's the point in this nihilistic way. I was able to start answering it and I was able to find my purpose. And the thing is, that's why I do think that like finding that point, giving that shit, it does give the meaning to our lives.
It does.
Because also it's where we get our strength. It's where we get our resolve. It's where we get our purpose, but it's also where we get our motivation and where we get our devotion. And I know we've spoken a lot about devotion in the previous seasons, but it really is that space where you're like, I know why I'm here. Or more likely, I know what I want my life to be. And it's not, and I've said this so many times before, because this is the line between like manifestation and that kind of, you know, law of attraction bullshit and like true power. It's not about a specific thing or person or outcome or expectation. What we're really asking for is the feeling.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if one really looks inside of them, you're attributing that external thing to the feeling. But what you're really asking for is the feeling.
And what's this feeling?
It could be joy. It could be love. Whatever it is that you're really, it could be purpose. It could be satisfaction. But I think that when you're asking why or what's my point, or when you're giving a shit, the question isn't, I will get this car, because that's more FOMO. It's, I will feel content. I will feel happy. I will feel joy. And then you kind of allow the what to present itself sometimes.
That's a nice process.
Thanks. I'm the how, you're the why. What I've noticed is that you also can't, you know, at the moment when you feel like you're unhappy or you feel like things need to change, we don't have to look very far outside of our noses when we're constantly looking at the external to make us internally happy to see what's wrong with the external. I mean, you can't open the news, you can't open social media, you can't do anything without seeing something, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is, though, is that often what we do is then we like put ourselves onto those bigger issues and think, well, if I solve, I'm going to just talk personally. My karmic thing was unlovable, right? So what did I do? I went and I started working domestic violence. And I started working in charities to help relationships and thinking that if I could heal other people's relationships, I could somehow heal my relationship to relationships. But no matter what I did, my relationships weren't getting any better, whether it was helping on a smaller scale, a bigger scale, or even a government scale. When we changed a law, it didn't mean my relationships got better.
Right.
Because actually it wasn't about fixing the big relationship. Like as in societal, until I fixed my own relationship to myself, the smallest one in some ways, because it's the one with the least amount of people in it. But it didn't mean it was the smallest, actually it was the biggest, because that relationship defined everything else in my life, including my relationship to the bigger issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think until you can actually look at like, why is this happening to me? Why are all my bosses assholes? Why is my life going off the rails? Like, until you're able to actually look at, why do I not think I am good enough? And actually start working through the relationship you have with yourself. Because effectively, when you talk about doing something spiritually, what we're saying and why we say do whatever the fuck you want to do, it's effectively saying you are good enough to make your own decisions. You are good enough to facilitate your own healing. You are good enough to create the world you want to live in. But you can't know any of that until you're good enough to just do whatever you want to do in a moment. Yeah. Like it starts there and it bleeds out. And you can't give a shit about the big things when you're coming at it from a broken place, because you're still looking for the external to fix the internal. And it doesn't work. And they are all sourced because they're all sourced from the same place of powerlessness. Yeah. So even when I'm trying to fix these bigger issues, if I'm coming at it from a place of powerlessness, I'm not fucking fixing shit. I'm not doing anything other than putting my own issues onto someone else, projecting my shit onto someone else, and then trying to use them to fix me. Whether it is something that's, I'm going to take you on my healing journey, which is still my lols, or it's something.
Join me as I fix myself. And I hope that inspires you.
Exactly.
To fix yourself. However you can, but just do what I do.
Exactly. And if you fix yourself, then I know I matter.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden
that just validates my sense of purpose.
And, it's so similar. I'll never forget this. This is a really like left field example.
Okay.
But I'll never forget there was someone that I know was very stressed as a mother that their child was not sleeping through the night.
Okay.
All right. And they were taking it extremely personally that they were a bad mother because their child was not sleeping through the night.
Okay.
And I remember another friend just kind of looked at her and goes, why is it that your child's performance determines how good a mother you are?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you putting the burden of how good a mother you are onto your child?
Yes.
Because that's effectively what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're doing every day. Mm-hmm. When we look at these other things, it goes, oh, okay, you'd think, oh, okay, I remember turning around after the law passed and going, all right, well, now I'm the best because I've like helped all these people and I've saved all these people. And I felt like shit. Mm-hmm. I felt empty. And it wasn't because I'd done something and now it was finished, which is what I thought it was. It was because I hadn't actually meaningfully changed anything for myself. Mm-hmm. And instead my ego could go around going, here's another piece of my identity that shows what a great fucking person I am.
One more addition to my LinkedIn profile.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Where actually, and I can't deny it. Hopefully it's helped people. Great. But actually, when we're talking about what I wanted to feel, I didn't feel any better. Mm-hmm. And the thing is now, if I had the opportunity to do it again, maybe I'd do it a bit differently as well. Maybe I'd come from a place of compassion.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd come from a place of power. Maybe I'd come from a place where we understand how everyone, and maybe I just look at it differently.
I think you'd have a more expanded perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can't explore or resolve any of these larger issues when we're coming from this place of disempowerment.
Yeah.
Whether it's political, economical, spiritual, whatever it is, if we're coming from a place of disempowerment, we are just going to be repeating the same things over and over again under a different face, which is why when we look at spirituality today, all we're seeing is religion 2.0, whatever iteration it is, because we're not actually empowering ourselves to create our own spirituality, to create our own connection, to be whatever the divine expression, as you say.
Whatever the I love it. And you're like, quote unquote. Not to be disparaging, but
no, but we're not actually having that connection to our divinity. We're actually having connection to separation's version of divinity, which keeps us separate, which therefore keeps us in our powerlessness.
Yeah. So whenever you say just do whatever the fuck you want, you're effectively telling a person, exercise your power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because in doing so, not only will you heal your shit, but you'll also learn something new, which is you can listen to yourself. Yeah. You are good enough to do so.
Exactly.
Your feelings do matter. You can't outthink them, outthink them, outdo them, or outprove them. They matter.
Yeah.
And just as much as the feeling I am not good enough exists, which, to be honest, if you're feeling it, it's probably still showing you that there's something still left to learn, which is fair enough. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. That's the thing. It's not wrong.
No.
But there's also loads of other feelings that you're feeling. Yeah. Like, I can do this. My life can be better. There is something out there. The fact that anyone's even listening to this podcast means they know that feeling. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And knowing that feeling means that you're powerful enough to do it.
In 2023, we're going to be constantly awakening to 3 very particular ideas: our purpose, our meaning, and our power. Right? And so these will tie to the 7 themes of 2023. Let me just get them. Okay. I'm like, let me just pull them out of my ass. You're like, and I'll have a snack. And I probably forget that we're recording.
Yeah. Only because I know that this might take like a minute or two. So,
so 2023, joy, under which is fun, because I have been telling people, and I keep getting that 2023 is really about exercising our fun, because that does bring us to joy. Right. So, but we always have to look at things in the bigger way. So it's joy is one of them. Like 6 more to go. Power. Where am I giving it away, and where am I exercising it? And how can I improve? How can I use my power to improve upon my life? That's nice. The third one is, what are the things that I can create for myself that will better my life? 4 more. Where can I direct my hope? So previously, a long time ago, we explained hope as the expression of our true heart's desire. As we evolve and as we grow up, right? As we allow ourselves a larger perspective, hope can take on new meaning. And so in this case for 2023, hope is less about desire and more about the ability to own who we are in the present in order to be able to bring about a future. And that means that by being able to own ourselves and who we are in the present, we give everything over to our fate, knowing that it will all be perfect. I have no idea how that's going to look like how that will appear and present itself in 2023. That'll be interesting, but that's all they're going to say about that for now.
And just as when you say give over to our fate, etc., this is not from a powerless place of it's all written, so off I go. Everyone needs to remember that when we talk about fate, it's they think they said hundreds and thousands of options.
Yes.
So it's almost like
that you created yourself before you were incarnated.
Yes, that bit, but also that there are those options in body. So it's not like you only have one choice to make.
Oh no, there's no direct line in your fate at all. Yeah, actually, that explanation really, it makes sense to me when I think about what hope is. How you give it over to your fate, because your fate is actually what will help you actualize those possibilities more than any other part of you. Because when we try to conceive of our fate and our future,
we see it very linearly.
We see it very linearly because our mind needs to be able to anticipate. So when you're giving yourself over to your fate, you're saying, I will operate from a space of consciousness in which my mind cannot even begin to get there, right? So you really are having to give yourself over to something that your mind cannot understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
But actually, whilst understanding that
and
it's
that's
not
hope.
Yeah,
right?
Which makes sense.
Hope understands that you're not necessarily going to know everything.
No, that makes total sense.
So the other theme of 2023 is abundance. So this ties into the other theme about what are the things that I can create about my life. It links to abundance because we're really going to have to confront what does abundance mean to me? How can I live abundantly? How do I do that? And again, this is a theme, so we're not going to give everything away in terms of how do we answer that question. It's just not for today. Two more. Spirit. How do I make room for spirit? And what that means is how can I allow myself to be guided by what is effectively my higher self? So it's about creating that connection. We don't even have to go to the divine bit. It's really just our higher self, right? How conscious can I become is effectively the big question. And then finally we have, God, I feel like I could have started with this as simpler. Resilience.
I was wondering, they all seem too happy. I was like, there's got to be one that's like less happy.
Can I maintain my true identity in the face of adversity?
So basically what you're saying is 2023 is going to be a pretty shit year with pockets of fun.
It's going to be a funny year, right? Because it's going to be one of those, so the past few years, our shit's been in our faces. Everything's just been flying out, flinging everywhere. Our shit's out there too, and everybody else's shit. And so we've been acting and reacting from that place. It has felt quite, how can I say this? It's almost physical the way we've been feeling. Like we can just feel it that way, like it's on our bodies, obviously, after what we've been through the past couple of years. A lot of this adversity really seems to be taking place in the physical world, like in the physical plane and how we're experiencing it through that. But the thing is, in 2023, a lot of that not good enough story is going to feel a lot more, dare I say, because with karma is not subtle, but it's going to seem a little less in your face. It's a lot easier to resolve your karma when it's literally in your face. It's a little bit harder to spot or identify when it's coming up in through other things, like relationships, the way we interact with people. You know, they might be more like nudges.
Why is it shifting
and
like
tapping.
that?
Because we have to be able to get to those deeper places where we've held our separation. So that's where we're going to be forced to kind of draw that good enough story out of us, has to come from that deeper place. So it's just going to be a lot less obvious than it has been. And what a lot of those feelings are going to be pointing to, and again, this won't be the theme of 2023, but in a lot of ways, this is what most people are going to need to be addressing, which is their shame. And shame is really one of those final pieces of 3D and our not good enough story that keeps us out of alignment with 5D values, which are like peace and harmony and oneness and respect and tolerance and compassion. Like all of that stuff we can't really get to if we're holding on to shame.
Shame effectively tells you I will never be enough.
not only am I not good enough, I will never be good enough. Shame is the noose around our neck, right? It's the thing that as much as we are free, it's the one thing that keeps us from our freedom.
Shame is a really difficult thing because actually, even though weirdly it's a very external, internal thing that we experience very internally, right? Because shame is effectively, we're seeing ourselves through the eyes of other people.
Or what we think.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of our society is built on this kind of external validation. Yeah. Because we feel invalidated externally, so we look for the validation to reverse it. But unfortunately, when it comes to shame, or when it comes to any of this stuff, we hold it inside and it just becomes a bar that always continues to be raised. Nothing will fill it up enough. You can't be loved enough. You can't be given enough money. You can't be have enough followers. You're always going to want more. And that's often quite a telltale sign of where you're holding shame and what you were talking about with abundance. What is enough? Well, nothing will be enough when you don't think you will ever be enough, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
To answer my own question, which I haven't asked yet, how do you know if you're being ruled by shame, is where are you looking outside of you to tell you that you're good enough? Why am I looking for external validation? Where am I holding my shame? Because I think if you're able to connect those two, you can start making the shift from the inside. And once you're able to pinpoint that, which is, karmic themes are useful, but once you're out of your karma, and as you said earlier, when you know that something different could happen today, we can still hold shame. We could hold shame over the person that experienced our karma, which was one of my biggest shame pieces, right? Like, how did I allow myself to be in those relationships? Why did that happen to me? And then there are also the smaller pieces of why did I behave in this way, or why did I do this, or why did I do that? And for me, I think the first thing, and you said this I think in a previous podcast in a different way, is that one of the ways to kind of move from shame is to just do the opposite. If my shame was telling me to be quiet and hide away because no one loved me, how about I do something different? And say how I feel, own my love. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And because
I said that? Okay.
Yeah, you said it differently, but I remember you said in the last episode or the episode before, push those boundaries. Because I said to you, how do you know something? And you said, try, experiment, test. For example, by doing something and seeing a different outcome, you can expand your mind to see that maybe the shame was unfounded and you heal it, right?
Especially the more you confront it like that, right? Yeah.
And then the second thing I would say is,
I mean, it's kind of what some people try to do, which is to really, it's almost like they look for somebody who kind of maybe holds a not so high opinion, and they're like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Yeah. It's a little like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it. I mean, when I had issues with my weight, I kept going to men who were only obsessed with super skinny girls and then being like, oh, they rejected me because I'm so fat. And I'm like, yes, they did, because you weren't their type. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, so when you think about it, you create all these self-fulfilling prophecies constantly, and then you just use them to reaffirm that you're not good enough, even when you're out of your karma. It's bullshit. So why don't you try something different? And it's not necessarily going for the different type of guy or the different type of job or the different kind of thing. It's just actually, for me, it was, if I believed I was good enough, what would I do? And then you do that thing and see what happens. Like, it can be literally as simple as that.
Yeah.
But the second thing that I definitely found was compassion, which is so blah, blah, and I'm really sorry. But the truth is that you didn't know any better. I don't know why we live in a society where we expect us all to be fucking perfectionists and professionals and professors and just have all the information at all times. We don't shout at a 3-year-old for not knowing how to do long division. Why the hell would we expect ourselves to know things that we haven't learned yet?
Because that's part of our not good enough story and experience, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
like... asking that question?
No, I'm just saying, but, and that's it. Is that, like, we don't ever give ourselves the moment to go, actually, I didn't know any better at the time. I was doing my best. Yeah. And because of that, I learned something that allows my best to be even better next time. But unless we're able to face the pain of actually the fact that we didn't know it in that moment, we don't allow ourselves the healing and the learning that comes after it. So really being able to face that pain and just going, all right, you know what? I've learned something great from this. The pain, it's not mine anymore, but the learning is. And the thing is that, like, effectively, the more you engage with it over and over again, eventually you just become sick of it and you're like, you know what? It's done.
Yeah.
It's done. I have learnt it. I have burnt through every single way this is showing up for me. And I actually am not scared of it anymore. I hold no fear around this. It goes against who we are to live in shame. We don't want to live in shame. We do want happy lives. We don't want to live in pain. We want to be in love. Like, I think the thing that we have had shoved down our throats time and again is that life is about suffering. And I know I've banged on about this before, but that life is about suffering, that we are here to pay our dues, and then maybe some way we'll get a modicum of praise or a modicum of satisfaction. That's not my point. And until I could figure out that I was good enough and truly believe that in every cell of my body, I was never be able to reach my potential.
Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.